There were vice presidents at Meta that would call me and wish me happy birthday. The wife of Mark Zuckerberg gave over $1 million to our charity. So I saw myself as a protected person.
Your followers is different than others, so they took you as a target.
He says, Sean, there are both corporations and governments that are asking Meta to remove you from the platform. My account was one of the 3 most shared accounts in the world. If losing Instagram played even a small role in me becoming a Muslim, I'm glad I lost it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the new episode of Digital Intifada. Today, we have an extraordinary guest, Shon King, who has been a powerful voice for justice and human rights. His activism spans various causes, but today, of course, we will be focusing on his advocacy for Gaza. Shon, thank you. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and being with us today.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very much. You have been a stubborn advocate for many social justice causes, and your support for Gaza has been particularly powerful, unstoppable. I wonder what specifically drew you to, to have this, all what you have done and to champion the cause of Gaza?
Well, there are probably two big things. And so thank you for asking that question. And I love being able to answer it because so many people only came to know me after October 7th, made the assumption that that was the first time I ever advocated for Palestinians in the world. I've been advocating for Gaza and the West Bank and Palestinians for most of my adult life. I told you earlier, it was all the way back in 2001 when I was a student at Morehouse College that we traveled to South Africa to the United Nations Conference Against Racism. And something happened there. I don't think I even got to tell you this. At that conference, Nelson Mandela spoke, Fidel Castro spoke, Yasser Arafat spoke. At that conference, in the middle of the conference, and we had front row seats, like they treated us like gold there, 2 nations got up and left the conference. If I asked you to guess who the 2 nations were that got up to leave, you would probably guess right. It was the United States and Israel. This is in 2001. I'm a teenager.
And that was the first time you know about Palestine and Gaza?
I hadn't, I've said this publicly, I knew nothing about the Palestinian cause, the Palestinian plight, and most of my classmates that went, we didn't either. And I joke because we were used to being the most popular students in whatever room we went to. And when we got to South Africa, the most popular students in every room were Palestinians. And the first question we asked ourselves is, who are these people and why do South Africans love them so much? And it was then and there that we started realizing the historic relationship between South Africa and Palestine, that went back long before, that went back a generation, that they had fought against apartheid, that they had supported South Africans. And so it was there that many of my classmates and I developed a heart for Palestinians, and we kind of got a crash course on why they were so popular in South Africa. So to this very day, you see South Africans advocating for Palestinians. That relationship goes back decades. So from 2001 forward, any chance I've gotten, I've always tried to advocate for Palestinians. But today, for me to put the effort and energy that I have into advocating against this genocide, it really comes out of my personal relationships with Palestinians. Some of my very best friends in the world are Palestinians. Before October 7th, I had friends living in Gaza. I still have close friends living in Gaza, living in the West Bank. So for me, it was personal. Friends who had advocated for me for years, who had marched with me, protested with me, and never expected anything in return. Palestinians who showed up for African Americans fighting against police brutality or mass incarceration. So for me, this was a relationship. You fight for your friends.
Yeah.
And Palestinians have been my friends for a long time.
Well, I can ask you, how you used your all platforms for Gaza? I mean, the whole world knows. How did you dedicated your social media for advocating for Gaza? And of course, first, before we speak about how they try to stop you, what's the examples of the impact that you got from that advocacy?
Well, I saw my role from October 7th on as telling really the non-Muslim, non-Arab world what was going on there. At that point on...
Which is very important.
So,
I mean, most of the social medias are having followers, let's say, who knows already about Palestine, but specifically your social media or your people that they know you, they are people who hearing Palestine and Gaza for the first time, which is very crucial.
So for me, on October 6th, I would say 90% of my followers were not Muslims. And most of them probably could not have pointed to Gaza on a map. And so after October 7th, I kind of saw my job as a translator, like as a literal translator. I would get friends of mine to translate videos, and I would put captions on them.
Cultural translation.
Yeah, but a cultural interpreter, a cultural translator, to try to explain to people, here's what's happening, here's what I see, and I would try to put it in a language that anybody could understand. If it was, I have kids that follow me on social media, I have elders that follow me, and I wanted people, no matter what their religion or background, to be able to say, I didn't understand that. And so I saw my role as informing people that normally would get their news from unreliable places when it comes to Gaza, to inform them in a way that they never were. And I saw my job as pointing people to people in Gaza and the West Bank that they should follow. So, hey, let me explain to you what you see, but also please follow this woman, please follow this man. And so I think my biggest pride before I was banned from Instagram was helping, hundreds of Palestinians grow their base. And today, most of them are still on the platform and are able to advocate for themselves, which still gives me great joy.
So they couldn't stop you basically by banning. But speaking about the ban and how did they gradually ban all your platforms, I think not only Instagram, but many websites and other social media platforms that you were active on it, and I can see that the thing that you mentioned is very important, that mention others so they can continue even if you are not there. But again, did they stop you? I mean, you lost millions in a second, and then you suddenly, Shon King is not there anymore. It has two sides. The followers' side, people that were hearing from you, and your side. Of course, the other side where you, like when people that are continuing now to share about Gaza and raising the awarenesses, and they knew you through you, but I'm very curious to know your side. How do you continue? What do you do? Is that the end of your advocates on social media, and how do you go from there?
So I have to be very honest. It was a really effective strategy to ban me from the platform. And I had put so many of my eggs in the Instagram basket, if you will, that it was the main platform that I used. And so and that wasn't just since October 7th. For years, I poured my heart and soul into developing a community there. And I had ignored almost every other platform. And so I hadn't really grown my base. I had millions of followers on other platforms, but I wasn't really using them. And so to ban me from this platform, Instagram at that time was really the primary place people were able to tell stories about what was happening in Gaza. So it did hurt me. It hurt me personally. It hurt me professionally. It made it very difficult for me to be that translator that I felt I had become, to be able to show a different type of person what was going on there. So in that sense, it was very effective, and it surprised me. I mean, I've said this publicly. I've spoken at Meta. I've been a guest speaker multiple times at Meta. I was friends with countless employees at Meta. When I say friends, there were vice presidents at Meta that would call me and wish me happy birthday. That when they would see that my children were sick, they would write me and say by name, how is your son doing? How is your daughter doing? The wife,
they are on the board of these platforms.
The wife of Mark Zuckerberg gave over $1 million to our charity. So I saw myself as a protected person. Like in October, November, employees at Meta would contact me to help them mediate conflicts with Palestinians. So I saw myself, I was proud of my work. Like I felt like, okay, this platform is a place where we can do this advocacy and I'm safe here. I never thought I would be banned. I thought I would always be on Instagram, and I learned a painful lesson that the platform is truly owned by Zionists, controlled by Zionists, and they chose their own beliefs over what I thought was like a genuine relationship. So
they disappeared?
Oh,
what excuses they gave you? I mean, when
listen,
they banned you, those friends, you couldn't just...
There is a man who works there to this day that I saw as a personal friend. To this day, he won't reply to a text message, an email, a phone call. I tried to call him just last week. And so in early December, someone at Meta told me, Sean, in a high-level senior meeting, they are talking about ways they can ban you from the platform. And I posted this. As soon as I got off of that conversation, I didn't say the person's name, but I said,
this is happening.
Yeah, senior executive at Meta. And here's what he told me. He said, Sean, they're trying to tie you somehow to terrorism so they can justify banning you from the platform. And here's what he said. He said, Sean, there are both corporations and governments that are asking Meta to remove you from the platform. And
I
still didn't think it was going to happen, though.
That's return us to the question of you are not the only person who have millions of followers. Many advocates for Gaza, for Palestine, at the time and still going on, having millions. But you personally, again, having people, as you have said, where 90% of them are non-Muslims, are causing problems to Zionists because new people started to know about Gaza, and you basically were shaking the world.
The best illustration I can make. I have a friend who is an African-American civil rights activist in the United States. He called me this past week, and he wanted to know why I was critiquing the policies of Kamala Harris regarding Gaza. And I asked him, I said, before you and I argue about this, I said, please just first tell me, honestly, what do you know about Gaza? And here's what he said to me. It was so instructive. He said, Sean, once you were banned from the platform, I never really saw anything about Gaza on my timeline again. And immediately...
It's obvious why they banned you.
So I was reaching a type of person that other people, Palestinians, often aren't reaching. And
because generally Palestinian influencers or any people who have millions, they have Palestinians, they have Muslims, even if they are in America or any part of the world. But you're specifically, as we have been seeing, that your followers is different than others, so they took you as a target.
In November and December, my account was one of the 3 most shared accounts in the world, more than any president in the world in those 2 months. So I knew the account had power and I knew it had impact. It was naive of me
to trust those friends, personal friends.
I didn't think it would happen that way.
Do you think that this Muslim world or the Ummah in general needs a solution for this? I mean, this is a dead end for anything that you want to do, and then suddenly they can't stop you because they own these platforms.
Well, what we've learned is painful, and it's something that African Americans in the United States have been talking about. When you not only don't own a platform, but you're not even having representation on the board of that platform, they can make a decision against your best interest any day they want. Right now, there are virtually no Muslims on the board of any major tech company. And so, not only are there not Muslim vice presidents or CEOs or owners or major shareholders sometimes.
It's not about Muslims as well. Even the African Americans are not represented there.
Have almost no representation. And so we have to ask ourselves, one, either how do we have more representation at these companies, or how do we build companies that may be meant for everybody where we still have greater ownership and representation? Because at any moment, we can be removed from any of these platforms or suppressed on any of these platforms. And what we've seen is there's virtually nothing you can do about it. What I've had to tell people is it's not illegal to do what they did to me because it's their company. They own it. It's like if someone was yelling inside of a restaurant, they can remove that customer. And
because
even
they own the restaurant.
Yeah, it's their restaurant. And so they didn't want me on the platform, even though what they did was unjust. I think it even violated their own policies. What my attorneys have said is, Sean, their policies are meant for them to follow, but if they don't want to follow their own policies, it's not illegal. And so they don't have to follow them. If they want you gone, you can be gone.
That's really needing a long-term strategy.
For sure.
And I think we take lessons many times, but we still have hopes that we have one day, very soon, inshallah, to have our own platforms to, fight for our rights. But again, for now, I mean, currently, I can see you are not stopped. You're still everywhere around the world, speaking any chance you get for Gaza, for Palestine. What is the current projects? What are the work that you do that excites you these days? Because I can see still that you have a lot of energy that you speak and work for Gaza.
I think I have to start with one thing. When I was banned from Instagram, I was very bitter about it. I was sad. I would still get my phone out to open the app and realize, like, they made it to where not only did they ban my account, they banned every business account that I have. I had a podcast page that had 300,000 followers. They banned that. They banned my civil rights organization's page, which was not even a page about Gaza. They banned it. Anything touching me, they removed. Like, to this day, I can't even if I open another account, it's banned within minutes. And so I don't even do it anymore. At first I was bitter and frustrated and even confused, like, what am I supposed to do next? This is how I planned on doing this advocacy. After a few months, I actually started to see it as a blessing. As people may know, during Ramadan, the first day of Ramadan, my wife and I became Muslims. I've said this publicly.
I wanted to come to that,
yeah.
Because I'm so curious to know whether if all this what happened to you was one of the reasons or the main reason for you to convert.
Well, I have to say, I don't trust...
Or we say to accept,
yes,
not to convert.
Well, I don't trust myself enough to believe that if I was still on Instagram, that I would have become a Muslim. If I was on Instagram now, doing what I was doing, I probably wouldn't have 6 million followers. I would have 10 million followers. And I would just be chugging along every day, doing what I was doing, advocating, raising money for charities and causes. And I don't know that I would have made the decision to become a Muslim. And here's why. When I lost the platform, it removed so much noise from my life, good and bad. I lost beautiful relationships, but I also stopped seeing hate and false accusations.
Threatening.
Threats, all of that.
Time to think, maybe.
Yeah, and so what it ultimately did for me was it caused me to have the space to really think about, who am I? What do I want to be? What direction do I want my life to go? And it really allowed me to have space in my heart and mind to think about deeper issues, deeper questions. it allowed me to have like very open conversations with my wife about what it would mean for us to become Muslims. And I think if I was still on there, that I might just still be doing what I was always doing. I'm at the point now, I mean this with every fiber of my being. If losing Instagram played even a small role in me becoming a Muslim, I'm glad I lost it. I would lose it over and over again, because your question was, what am I doing? What excites me? What makes me happy in today's life? A huge part of my daily life now is learning what it means to be a Muslim. I've been a Christian my whole life. I was a pastor. I've been a devout religious man. And so I've always cared about God, the ways of God. I've cared about sacred texts. I went to seminary to train to be a pastor. But these 5 months of being a Muslim have been some of the best 5 months of my life. They've been not only because I'm learning every day, but I have a new order, a new sense of direction in my life. And I think one of the most beautiful things that people tell me is, Sean, you might have lost 6 million followers, but you gained 2 billion sisters and brothers. And so, and I feel it. You would have to be a Muslim to understand what that means, that we are happy when we see each other. I was a Christian for 25 years. I couldn't tell if a Christian was happy to see me or not. You know, in fact, in America, there are, you know, Christians that don't even want to be in the same room with each other. And it's not that there aren't disagreements among Muslims. Of course there are. But around the world, we are happy to share salam with each other. We're happy to pray with each other. My family, we've been here in Istanbul for almost 4 weeks. It's hard to communicate to a non-Muslim how beautiful it is. For me, I don't speak Turkish, I don't speak Arabic, to be able to go into a mosque, into a masjid, and pray with 1,000 people who don't speak the same language as me, but we share the same prayer, we share the same posture. And it's a beautiful shared experience to know that 1 billion of us all over the world are praying the same prayers at the same times, facing in the same direction, that we share the same text, and that we care about a lot of the same issues. And so Islam has very quickly become like the center of a lot of my life and of my wife's life as well.
How that reflected on your advocacy now? Now, like after you are now a Muslim, I'm sure that you have different reactions from your own community, from different Muslims around the world, and how you relate now this new life with the advocacy, especially for Gaza.
You know, in two or three ways. I don't know that I'm completely confident. In fact, I wouldn't say I don't know. I would not be a Muslim today had this genocide not taken place. I'm not glad that I have no joy in it taking place, but it was me seeing up close and personal the faith, the Islamic faith of Palestinians, seeing their prayer, seeing them quote the Quran in the worst moments imaginable. It was men and women who had just lost their most precious family members calling me, telling me that they still believed in the will of Allah. And I would see it as a non-Muslim in October, November, all the way through Ramadan, and say, what is this? How is this possible that someone could experience so much suffering? And I had a conversation with Imam Omar Suleiman. This was in December. And I asked him a really important question. He knew that I was close to accepting Islam. And I asked him, I said, I want to be sure that it's not just that I love Palestinian culture or that I love Yemeni culture. I asked him, I said, is this Islam that I love, or is it Palestinians? And he said, Sean, you really can't separate Islam from Palestinians. He said, yes, there are beautiful parts of Palestinian culture, But he said, what they would tell you is that it is Islam that's getting them through each day, every day. And he said, yes, there is a unique way to be a Muslim as a Palestinian that all of us in the world see and admire and wish that our faith could be as resilient and as strong as theirs. And it was literally just sitting in the front seat of his car talking to him where I realized, okay, then it's not just my love of Palestinian people or Palestinian culture, but it is the expression of Islam through them in the worst moments imaginable that really won my heart to Allah and won my heart to what it would mean. The biggest pivot or change that I've made, and again, I think I would have to be banned from social media to be able to see this, is for the first time in my life, I'm practicing something that I always tried to practice but couldn't. I truly cared so much about what other people thought of me. And when you're on social media, it's hard not to. You see the comments. People would make viral videos about me, and those would be the most viral videos those people had ever made. And it would be hard to see that and for it to not affect you. I'm finally at the point where the question I'm asking myself, consciously and subconsciously, is not what are people saying about me, but it is, how does Allah see me? How are my decisions seen in this way? Am I honoring God with the decisions I make? And so now my advocacy is not around, will this post be engaged? Will this post get likes or comments or shares? Or even, will this change the way the world sees an issue? It is to say, is Allah pleased with what I'm doing? And so it's not that my advocacy has changed, but how I see it has changed. It's given me more courage, where now I'm not worried if I'm popular or not. Now, I don't want to lie and say I don't care at all about I care about what you, as my friend, I care about what you think of me. I care about what my wife thinks of me. But beyond that, I primarily want to ask myself, does this honor Allah? And if it's popular, unpopular, if it's viral or not viral, it doesn't matter to me.
MashaAllah. I can listen to these stories for hours and hours, but the program has,
sure,
time,
yes.
and I can't, finish it without asking you a message to people, to young people who are willing to do stuff, but they don't know where to start, or a lot of people, they do stuff, but they don't know whether they are on the right way or how to have the courage to continue and, to have that courage that you have it after all what you have been facing last few months.
There are maybe three things that I would encourage people to do that I try to do on a daily basis. One, just regarding Gaza and Palestine in particular, do everything you can to support men and women in Gaza, in the West Bank. Follow them, support them, comment on their posts, and if you can, be their friend. Encourage them in direct message. Pray for them. Support them if they ask for your support. Like, relationships are essential for me and for others, and so do everything you can to support the men and women there. None of us know, we're at almost 300 days as we record this into this genocide. I didn't think it would last for 30 days. I definitely didn't think it would last 100 days.
I still remember when we were saying it's almost 10 days of genocide. This
Right.
should stop. And I can't believe that it's almost, as you said, 3
I
years.
remember when they crossed 100 kids who had been killed. I never thought it would get to 500. Now we've really lost count after 15,000 kids. So do everything you can to support Palestinians, not just in Gaza.
Boycotting and
Yes,
rallies
yes.
And any voice that you can do, right?
Secondly, find out what you can do where you live. If you're a college student, not just protest on your college campus, See if your college is invested in these arms companies. See if they're invested in companies that we should be boycotting. Any day now, even Netanyahu has announced he believes he's going to be charged and a warrant issued for his arrest by the International Criminal Court. It is ethically wrong to be invested in a nation that has been charged with war crimes. And so see that your university or that your corporation, your job, or your investments at your place of employment, are they investing in these arms companies? And people are shocked when they find out actually they are. Why? Because they're profitable. These companies are making the most money they've ever made because the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, and other nations are investing billions of dollars into arming Israel. So just see what you can do where you are. Lastly, just begin to understand that this is something that we're not going to be working on for a few more months or even a few more years. Experts have said it will take 15 years just to remove the rubble. This is a commitment all of us need to say, I'm committed for the rest of my life to these people and to this place. That's a commitment I've made. And once you've made that commitment, this is a lifelong commitment for me, you'll see your role differently. You'll see your place differently. And just be open to new projects and new ideas.
Inshallah, I believe in Palestinians and specifically the Gazans. We'll remove them in 6 months, not 15 years.
Yes.
But because they've done everything that we couldn't even imagine.
Absolutely.
Shon, thank you very much.
Thank you, bro.
For sharing with us your insights and your journey. It's really honoring us to have you here today with us. And welcome again to Turkey, and welcome to be a Muslim.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
And special thanks to our viewers for tuning in to Digital Intifada. Stay informed, stay engaged. Until next time.